Hello everyone, and 1 week passed quite quickly and we're back with another episode of ITS Laboratories Pickup Vlog. And today we're going to divert from the topic of mass timber and we'll talk about collaborative initiative of 9 research institutes and Callahan Innovation led by University of Auckland, which is NZ Product Accelerator. This project is deemed to pull research and technology into high-value manufacturing companies in New Zealand. And about that, we'll talk with Professor Mark Taylor, who is the director of NZ Product Accelerator since the year of its inception in 2013. So Mark spent 30 years in technology, in line management in metals, and in high-value manufacturing, working at the interface between research and application. So he joined the University of Auckland as the director of Light Metals Research Center, and since then he's published 200 papers along with patents for new technologies. So Mark's expertise and achievements in industry and in academia were endorsed through various awards, and among them Rio Tinto Award for research application and TSM Application in Practice Award for his applied research in industry. So I'm quite thrilled and honored that Mark accepted our invitation. Mark, thank you for joining me today.
It's a pleasure, Anna.
So my first question is about NZ Product Accelerator and all of that intellectual resources you have to help to develop the products, new products IPs. So could you please elaborate on that and give me maybe some examples?
Okay, well, Anna, our job in the Product Accelerator is accelerating innovation. And most innovation actually happens in companies and enterprises around New Zealand. So our network is industry facing, and it's also research intensive. And that's a difference from a lot of research in New Zealand, which tends to be focused on what the researchers think is important, rather than necessarily looking for the questions within the community and within the industry in New Zealand. We've used what we call something called pool science, where we work with individual companies, usually highly successful businesses and not-for-profit enterprises, who see that something is missing. There's a technology piece, a piece of understanding of science missing, and we collaborate with the company to find out what that is first, and then within the network that we have across New Zealand to source that or to in fact do research to find the answer. You know, it's a fact that only 1 in 20 startups in New Zealand survive more than 5 years. Mm-hmm. The Product Accelerator collaborations over the last, 12 years actually, have resulted in more than 50% successful innovations, hundreds of innovations. And it's been proven over a decade really, including many startups. The result of that is that less businesses fail and more grow. So pool science generally has got the tick from business because of that. We get quite a lot of in-kind and cash support for what we do. Basically, it's converting science into exports, but starting with the industry challenge or the opportunity or the problem, rather than starting with a research question which might accidentally become an invention in 10 or 20 years' time. But very often we know that that doesn't happen. So we've started at the reverse end in the process. I'll give a quick example. This is quite recent. We got in touch, or a company making memorial stones got in touch with us. Lifestone is their name. and Dane Gutenberg actually, he came in and he was trying to market a New Zealand-made memorial stone. Memorial stones come from the US. They're granite, very high-grade granite, which has to be quarried in the US and then transported at great emissions costs to New Zealand, and that's how they come. So Dane had the vision of a New Zealand stone with New Zealand cultural heritage. He's Ngāpuhi, and he brought in this vision for us, but he needed a much higher strength stone than the one he could make in New Zealand at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So with his manufacturer, we worked on how to reformulate his stone and make it about more than twice as strong in terms of compressive strength, mm-hmm. so that it not only met the standard, but also beat the granite. So now he's selling his memorial stones through New Zealand. And we're still in touch with him. We still work with him on now we're working on new coatings that reduce corrosion of the surface of the stones and make them look nicer for longer. So it's a simple example where we had to find the right expertise. In that case, it was Kānaka de Silva, who had that expertise in terms of formulation of aggregates and binder materials, mm-hmm. for a synthetic stone. So just a simple example, but there are kind of hundreds like that now over the years.
Amazing. Listen, it's a great success story. I am quite impressed. I hope it will help our audience, to understand that there is help out there, and the support which they can use in order, to accelerate their products. Listen, then
Sure.
the second question is about National Testing Register. I've come across that register on your website, and I assume that there is a lot of testing involved into the process of research and development. So I would love you to elaborate on that and also specify if there is any fire testing involved into the process.
Okay, well, those are both good questions. Across New Zealand, in our institutions, universities, CRIs, private companies, testing companies like your own, Anna, mm-hmm. there's a lot of equipment, capital intensive equipment, mm-hmm. and most companies in New Zealand are smaller and don't have access to their own equipment in specialised situations. So what we decided to do was find all of the specialised testing equipment across New Zealand that we could lay our hands on. Mm-hmm. Of course, the institutions have to be willing to put it on the register, and make a very simple PDF register of what equipment and capabilities is where in New Zealand. We have several testing companies, including your own, on the register, mm-hmm. Fire Test Labs, and other companies as well. And what that does is provide a one-stop sort of shop for a company that knows they've got to do some testing, but don't know what's available and don't know where it is or who to talk to. And so actually Kānaka de Silva manages that register for us, and she gets about half a dozen calls a week, keeps her fairly busy. And right. Usually the company will ring up and say, look, we need to use this equipment here. And we go through a process of exploring what they really need behind that question, that first question that they ask, because it often transpires that they've got an idea of what they need, but maybe it's a different test from the one that they originally think. Mm-hmm. So we go through a process that allows them to find exactly what testing is needed. And from there, we'll do the test. But when you test a material or a product, you almost always find something you didn't know. And what happens is it throws up a question, and we take that question as well as the results of the test for the company, of course. But that question, we talk with the company about it and see if there's an opportunity for an improved and enhanced product a different product entirely. So we use it as a bit of a springboard, that test, to see if there's a way of accelerating innovation for the company. As you know, innovation doesn't occur just through research, it occurs through collaboration. So that's our method, that's one of our methods. The testing register is available, it's freely available on our website, and the tests are not free, of course. We have to charge for the use of the equipment, but they're pretty reasonably costed, I would say.
Right, perfect. Thank you.
I missed the second question, was about fire testing, wasn't it? And
yeah, go ahead. Tell me about fire testing, if there's any.
There is fire testing equipment on the register, your own, but also we have the testing of brands for construction materials, and we have a number of other tests, probably notably the cone calorimeter, which is at the Newmarket campus of the University of Auckland. There are 2 cone calorimeters in the country that we're aware of. One's at Brands and one's here at the university. Ours is, and most of our testing, I should mention, is not accredited testing, but it's done according to the standards with the same equipment. So it gives a pretty good guide, and more importantly, it gives a fast indication for the company about where they sit with their properties. Some of the equipment in the private companies is accredited. I note that Fire Test Laboratories is accredited laboratory. So fire testing is part of our work. Yes.
Right. Good. So the next question mark then. So, and I've come across the phrase on your website saying that you help to solve industry problems. So what is this range of problems you are trying to address to, and would really appreciate examples of something you've already done and help the industry, to go further?
It's a very good point. We've been a bit glib in saying industry problems. In my experience now, most of the problems that we are looking to solve are actually community problems, or community opportunities that then appear as a market, and then they become interesting to companies when there's a market. So that's the sort of train. And an example, I mean, the range is huge now. It ranges from materials, their surface properties and interior properties, manufacturing systems, sensing and robotics, which is a growing area, design innovation, energy and emissions, which with climate change has really come to the fore in the last decade, but particularly in the last few years. So there's a huge range of, and I've missed out completely, biological and recyclable materials. So the range really is determined by the community issues. And more we see that the community problem or opportunity becomes solvable through one company or more than one company getting together and actually working on it and providing solutions. And we see our role as supporting the companies, not doing the innovation ourselves, but getting with companies and community enterprises and supporting that innovation process through the provision of technology, really, and understanding about it. An example, one important example actually is in the area of fires in residential, particularly residential buildings, where the World Health Organization worked out that 100,000 people a year were dying, mainly due to asphyxiation in buildings due to halogenated fire retardants coatings that contain things like bromine and kill people before the fire. So a company in New Zealand, Ambitech, worked out a way of making a coating which was mineral-based, so water-based coating, mineral fillers, acrylics mainly, and acrylic copolymers. But they didn't know, because it had no fire retardants added, they didn't know whether those coatings were going to be fire resistant. And we got coated samples. We had to talk through the problem with Ambitech to work this out. But we eventually got coated samples and put them into the cone calorimeter test. And we found that really although they had no fire retardants, the other properties of the coating rendered them good in terms of fire resistance. And not only that, but non-toxic, no toxic fume evolution. As you know, the cone calorimeter measures both the heat flow and the flame out time, but it also measures the toxicity of the gases. So that was an example. I actually think that you in fire test labs can do that type of test even without a cone calorimeter, and you can do it to an accredited standard, whereas we couldn't do that.
Yeah, because we do the fire resistant testing, so probably we can also sometimes.
So our view about that would be, we would look for the best option for the company like Ambitech, and it could well be in a private laboratory like yours.
Yeah, well,
we didn't know about it. That was years ago, so we didn't actually know about it then.
We were not there at that time, but anyway. Listen, and I have the last quick question for you. So let's assume I have a product which I'm trying to develop, and I really need the assistance from NZ Product Accelerator. So how can I reach out to you? How can I address to you guys to get that help? If there is any kind of a roadmap for that, would you guide me?
Well, of course, you can go to the website and you can get the contact number you need. But I think now we're at a stage where we're in 9 institutions. So let's say you went to a university, the University of Waikato, for example, or the University of Canterbury, or AUT, Massey University, and you said, can you connect me with the New Zealand Product Accelerator? And what you would find is that there are people in the institutions, each of those institutions, the University of Auckland, GNS Science in Lower Hutt, Victoria University of Wellington, VUW in Wellington. So you would find, people there know about the New Zealand Product Accelerator, and they would be able to connect you to the people locally in your area who were working in our network. Because in each of the institutions there are 2 or 3 people, or sometimes more, who are working in the Product Accelerator network. We're about 40 people across the country. So if you go, as many companies do, we're hosted by Callaghan Innovation. So if you went to Callaghan Innovation, or your regional business partner, for example, the regional business partner network is pretty extensive through the country, and said, can you connect me with the New Zealand Product Accelerator? They would be able to do that immediately. So there's sort of no, and this is a philosophy also of Callaghan Innovation, there's no wrong door. You as long as you mention who we are, you'll get there. It might take you a few, you might have to inquire a couple of times and get passed around a little bit, but you'll get there because there are people in each institution now. The quicker way is to use the testing register on the website.
Perfect.
But if you want to know who locally in your own area you can go and have a face-to-face conversation with, ring up one of the universities.
Perfect. So that's easy. There'll be no problem, I guess.
I think not. I mean, it hasn't always been that way, but we've grown over time as people, because I guess the people who come and join the network are people who want to, serve the community, who want to help. and who want to do innovation, hands-on innovation. So we tend to get people who are looking outward from the institutions rather than inward.
Yep, perfect. Thank you. I think we're pretty clear here, and I'm sure people will have inquiries and will reach you out if they have any questions or products to develop. So thank you for this input.
Please do. We enjoy that.
Thank you, Mark. And time to say goodbye. And once again, thanks a lot for joining us today.